Welcome to EngineCraft Garage. Today we got this Yamaha 8-horse. It looks like it's from 2006. It's been sitting for a few years and I don't know all the issues with it, so we're gonna dig in and find out if we can get this running today. This is a really clean motor. I finally got a stand for outboards. It's super cheap, but it holds. I think it was like 40 or 50 bucks, and it had terrible reviews, but it's holding this thing just fine, and it's got wheels. Let's take this cover off. I want to check for spark first. 2-cylinder, 2-stroke. How am I going to do this? You guys see there? Yeah. And it's going to be a little hard. Let me pull the other plug out, just so we're not fighting against compression. It's got the original toolkit, which is pretty cool. What we got in here? Got a screwdriver. Looks like we got a scrunch, some pliers. This probably feeds into, feeds into here so we can get the plugs out. Pretty neat. It's not very often you see that original toolkit, and sometimes, most of the time if you do, they're pretty grimy or beat up. All right, now with both plugs out, now we can check. Is the kill switch off on this? I think we got a little bit of something. It didn't look very strong though. There's also not a whole lot of good spots to ground this to the case. Not seeing much in anything. Let's try an inline one. Thread this one in just a little bit. Throw this guy in there. Ground that out. You guys see that? All right, let's turn the light off. I am not seeing anything on that spark plug. Maybe we can test the other coil. Very, very light spark on that one. I don't know if that's going to be enough to run it, but we'll go with that for now. Plugs look like they're in decent shape. We might as well just squirt a little bit of 2-stroke fluid in here and see if this thing will pop off for a second. A little bit in there. Just to see if this thing will spark. Throw a little bit in there. I'm gonna run it dry, but it's only gonna be for a second. Let's see if this does anything. Oh yeah. Doesn't seem like there's any issue there. All right, so if it won't start on this fuel, we definitely got some issues with the carburetor. They're gonna have to be addressed. Not look like a fun carb to get into. Use my screwdriver that I took off the boat that I revived. If you want to see that video, leave a link to that right up in there in the corner. There's the air box. What do we got here? How do we get to you? Yeah, it's sandwiched. This plastic bit is sandwiched between that bolt, so you have to bolt those bolts off in order to get... Today is a blistering 93 degrees. It says 47% humidity, but I feel like that's a lie. We're trying to get this carburetor off, which I think if we take these 3 screws out, we can take this plate out, and that will allow us to get to these screws behind there. Of course, there's got to be one difficult one. This choke, I don't believe I can just pull out. There we go. And what do we got here? Fuel lines. Give her a little twist to see if we can crack it free. There we go. So Perfect. We got 2 bolts in here. Look like 10 millimeter. All right, I think we're in. Bolt 1 and bolt 2. Looks like we have a metal retainer. These just slide into the plastic here, and that's to prevent this plastic piece from cracking. All right, with that free. So I have 1 linkage over here we got to get to. Oh, knock you. And that is the throttle linkage. There we go. Carburetor is free. Let's get it over on the bench and open it up and see what's going on inside. All right, we got the carburetor here. Start taking some of these bolts out. So the engine started when I put some gas down the carburetor throat or some starting fluid. So that almost always indicates fuel delivery issue. I'm not saying there can't be other things, because there can. Stranger things have been known to happen. But that's usually the case. If you didn't know, see how that screw has a little dot right here? That means that this is a JIS screw, or a Japanese industrial standard. You'll find these on almost every overseas motor as far as fasteners go. And if you use a regular Phillips, you have a high probability of stripping it out. Well, the side doesn't look too bad. There's a little bit of debris down there, but that's not something that I'm too concerned about. I'm going to go get my JIS screwdriver. A little bit of fuel in there. So one thing I want to note, when I took this off, there's no fuel in the bottom of the float bowl, which means we probably have an issue with the needle and seat. Let's get that off. The needle looks okay. This is a Viton tip, very fuel resistant. It looks good. It still has quite a bit of pliability to it. Let's get that pin out. We have a plug here that was covering up one of the jets. Broke that one free. Let's see if we can get this little guy. All right, got that one free. Oh. See through it? Yeah, you can see through this one. This idle jet might be the problem one, though. And that's... I can't see through that. So that one's probably clogged. Let's see if we can push this emulsion tube out. Oh, there we go. There's the emulsion tube. Looks pretty clear. All right, what else can we do to take this thing apart even further? So we have this, looks like an air-fuel mixture screw. Let's see how many turns in it takes. So half, 1 1/4, 1 1/4 turns it out from seated. We'll take this out. Little piece there. We have this plastic or rubber plug here. If I can get it out, there we go. And this is why I like using the ultrasonic. Look how tiny those little orifices are, and if even one of them get clogged, then this isn't going to run correctly. Here, I'll clean this out with carb cleaner. This doesn't look too bad. I don't want to throw this thing in the ultrasonic with this. I could take that apart, but I don't want to ruin the diaphragm in here. And then this seal looks okay. So let's put this and the jets into the ultrasonic. Grab one of these little T-balls. Put all the jets in there. There is the T-ball. And here is the carb body. We'll let this soak for about 15 minutes, pull it out, and see how everything looks. All right, I got everything back out of the ultrasonic, and it looks brand new. Look at that. So let's do this top end first. Let's plug back in this rubber cap. And then we got this. Again, sorry about the fan noise. It's just ridiculously hot. 93 degrees in here. And unfortunately, I don't have a shop that has air conditioning. That would just be way too nice. Probably a lot of people that don't have AC in their shop. Or maybe a lot of you do. I don't know. Would be nice, though. In days like today. Most of the time, it doesn't really bother me. But today, it's just a little much. All right, let's put our mixture screw back in. We're going to get this, seat this all the way down and then back it out at 1 full turn and a quarter, I believe it was. Lightly seat, half, 1 and a quarter. All that back together. I do have this torch tip cleaner. I like these because they have little ribs or serrations or whatever you call them on here, and they're really good at breaking stuff up inside the jets. I just stick this in here and run it back and forth a few times just to make sure that this is clear. Before I couldn't see through it, and now I can see some light through it. I also want to check all of these little tiny holes on here too. Make sure those are clear because they do matter. They are there for a reason. All right, now I'm going to run some carb cleaner through it. Oh, just a helpful tip too. I love the straws on the carb cleaners, but I always lose the straws. This is a cap to a WD-40 can that I've just been popping it off, pulling this off, and then putting that on this top. And I've just been reusing this just because you have your full spray here, and then like on this one, I just grabbed this can and the straw is already missing. So just a little helpful tip. If you buy these expensive cans, you only got to buy them once. The same thing, like this is PB Blaster multi-purpose lubricant, but this is a WD-40, like the bendy straw. Just take the top off and put it on whatever can you want. All back together. Time to put it back on and see if we can get this thing to just fire just for a brief second, and then we'll do some required maintenance. Slide this guy back in here. This. We can't forget to put these metal spacers in here. That plastic will crack. Let's feed our screws in and bolt her down. Get our throttle linkage in here. Snap that back on. Now this is our plate here. Choke linkage hooked back up. There we go. Get our 3 screws. Throttle linkage is not working. Why is throttle linkage not working? I don't know if you guys can see in there or not. But when I turn this handle, see how that's barely moving? All right, that was totally me. I'm an idiot. So what happens is right now you can only, it doesn't go much because we're in neutral, so it won't fully rev out. As soon as you switch it into gear, it drops this pin back here, allows you to fully open it up. So nothing wrong. Reconnect our fuel line here, even though we're not going to be using this fuel line right now. Anyway, we're going to be using an external. I don't know how well it's going to work because we don't have prime. No, it's not close enough. I'm going to run this briefly for like 1 second. I know some people are going to freak out because it's not in water. It should be fine. Just for 1 second. All right, put choke on. Choke off. Choke on. Oh, there we go. All right, now for that brief 1 second, now I'll go put some water on it, and then we'll see how this thing runs. Let's go turn some water on. All right, got some muffs on it. Gas flowing. All right, let's see. what's going on there. One thing we do have, though, telltale, which is nice. That's flowing. Might have to mess with the air-fuel ratio screw. It doesn't... Something with the air-fuel ratio, maybe. Because I know that main jet's not clogged at all. Let's mess with that a little bit. All right, I'm going to go another quarter turn out. Should give us a little bit more fuel. It's more like a half. Water. In my haste, I forgot to put this little rubber plug in where I believe the idle jet goes, and that could be the reason why it's doing what it's doing. So I got to take the carburetor back apart, put this in, put it back together, and see if it runs then. All right, everything's back together. Got to make this quick because we are losing daylight. Let's do this and... Is a little high. Hose fell off. No bueno. Anyways, that runs great. I'm gonna bring this back into the shop. There's a few maintenance things we gotta check out, like grease fittings and then the lower end unit. And I think this thing is gonna be a solid little running engine. So what was basically happening is we were running just way too rich. There we go. Everything's reset back to default settings here. We got a couple grease fittings that we can put some grease in. So here's one. Oh, that's a little much. And then there's another one here on this side. Probably a little overkill to be using the electric grease gun. Should have just used the manual one. All right, last thing we need to do is check the oil on the lower end. All I'm basically looking for is a little bit of oil coming out of here. Oh, yep, got oil. She is very clean. Either it was changed recently or this unit hasn't been used very much. And we'll open up the oil level one, stick something down in there just to see, you know, how far we are. This torch tip cleaner. Actually, we're oozing out of there, so we're full. All right, the last and final thing we have to do is get this on here. Are we gonna go on or not? There we go. I think that just about wraps it up. Actively looking for like a small John boat so I can throw something like this on it and take it out on the water and see how they run. So far, no luck. But I want to thank you for watching. Hope everybody has a safe and fun 4th of July. If you're not from this country, I have a lot of people that have been watching from other countries. I hope your celebration for your Independence Day is great as well. So everybody's been asking for boat content, and I got more coming. I'm going to have a part 2 on the Trophy Center Council. I have a couple more outboards. I think I have a 3.5 horse from like the 60s. I'm going to be doing possibly another boat. So make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned for that. Again, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.